Welcome, everybody, to another episode of You Fascinate Me with Jamie Angle. I am your host, Jamie. Another week, another fantastic interview coming your way. But before we get to that, I want to thank last week's guest, Alex Tuck from the Buffalo Sabres, good friend of mine, Family Without the Blood. So happy he did this. Great feedback on it. That episode is doing great. But again, new episode, new week. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, You Fascinate Me Pod. You can go to our Facebook page, You Fascinate Me with Jamie Angle, and feel free to email me with any feedback or sponsorship inquiries, youfascinatemepod@gmail.com. So, again, we're on to a new week, a new interview. This week, I bring in another great guest. A friend of mine, graduated high school with him, Phillip Musumeci. You guys might know him from the Rochester area. He was Moose on 98 PXY. He's currently out in Hollywood doing his thing. He's got a new great short film called How to End a Conversation. It's on YouTube right now. You can find it on the Ami Leto channel on YouTube. You know, after 36 film festivals and 11 wins, you can finally see all of it on YouTube, and I encourage everyone to go check that out. But you're going to hear more about it during this interview, so I'm not going to take any more time. Let's just get right into this week's interview with Phillip Musumeci.
It is now time for this week's You Fascinate Me interview. Take it away, Dad.
All right, welcoming my guest this week, Phillip Musumeci. Man, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man. It's been years since we've spoke, since I've seen you last. So yeah, I appreciate you reaching out, man. It was great to hear from you.
Yeah, it's just catch everybody up on this. So Phil and I went to high school together. I would say we casually hung out. I don't think we did too much hanging out outside of the school.
We shared crowd. We hung out with the same people, to say the least. But God, high school seems like. Does it seem like forever ago for you, or does it seem like yesterday?
There are days when I absolutely feel like it was yesterday, and then there's also days where I absolutely feel all of 38 years old right now. So. But
me too, man. It was like celebrating 38 years was really just like, holy shit, we're almost 40 type of situation.
Yeah,
but it is what it is. What can you do? Go Trojans, huh?
Oh God, I'm happy about that, but also feel bad that my daughter's going to end up going there too, because we didn't move very far from our current location. So. My daughters will both be Grease Athena Trojans,
following in their father's footsteps. So you got two girls now.
Yeah, two little girls. I got a 8-year-old Zoe and a 3-year-old Tegan. Both are polar opposite children, which is fantastic. So they keep us on our toes. I bet there's days where I feel all of 38, and today is definitely one of them. My younger daughter has decided this whole thing where she doesn't really enjoy eating dinner, and then she wakes up in the middle of the night kind of like throwing up a little bit because she's hungry, and so it's super weird. So 3 a.m. I was downstairs giving her a snack, and then she went right back to bed. She was fine. So
kids, I know nothing about them just yet.
No, hopefully your day will come. So yeah, I mean, we're going to kind of keep this kind of free flow. I appreciate, like I said, you jumping on. I kind of, the whole premise of this podcast is to speak to people that kind of fascinate me. And, despite the fact that we haven't really talked too much in years, I've been keeping track and following along with what you got going on. I mean, I remember the days of, you being on the radio and hearing that, and was a local station 98 PXY, right? You did the show for a while there.
Yeah, I did mornings with PXY for 10 years before I ventured out to LA.
How did you get into that?
It was weird, man. After I left Grease Athena, everyone kind of, as you do when you graduate, go your own separate ways to figure out what it is you kind of want to do. And I didn't really have a plan. I went to MCC and I graduated with my communications degree, and um, for 2 years. And I originally went for graphic design, and I did it. I was good at it, but it just didn't feel like it was bringing me any kind of fulfillment or joy. Like, you know how when you feel like this isn't really my purpose, there's something more I should be doing. But at the time, even in high school, I was working at Doane Buick and GMC on Westridge Road there. And I was there for quite a few years working in the office. And one night I was sitting down there alone, and I was, answering the phones and stuff. And a woman came in to pick up her car keys. And my sales guy came in and he's like, "Hey, Phil, this is Sandy Waters. She's on 98 PXY. Sandy, this is Phillip. He works in the office." And me and Sandy struck up a conversation, and I got an internship at 98 PXY. And long story short, I worked my ass off there as an intern for 9 months for free. And then I walked into the program director's office one day and said, "What do I got to do to get put on mornings?" Because I was really in charge of doing promotions. Most people, when they went to like the mall or the Lilac Festival or Summer Jam concert, I was the dude that was head of promotions, like sticking banners everywhere.
Yep.
I knew like I had to be in the spotlight. I had to be behind the mic. I knew that's where I was going to shine. And so when I had the opportunity to do that, they gave me a shot, and I started interning on the morning show. And I get up at 3 a.m. every day, get to the studio by 4, go on the air at 5. And I was just doing the little things behind the scenes. And I worked my way into being a character on the show, and then became the producer, and then became the co-host. And then 10 years later, I felt like I hit my ceiling. I made my mark. I did everything I was supposed to be doing. Let's go to LA and see what I can do in Los Angeles. Because if I'm not going to do it now, I'm never going to do it. Right. So that I just celebrated 11 years last month here in LA. I live right in Hollywood. So it's been a journey, man.
Wow, I can't believe it's been that long. I mean, it sounds like you did a lot of the grunt work, kind of worked your way up through that. I mean, I don't honestly recall, and again, we're showing our age here a little bit, but did you always have an interest in kind of the entertainment side of things, or is it something that just kind of fell in your lap? And like, I mean,
it's something I wanted to do since I was a child, but I didn't think it was ever realistic.
Yeah.
Until I had a pretty great career at CBS Radio. And that was the stepping stone that launched me to say, hey, maybe this is a possibility for me. Maybe I can do it. But if I do decide to make the trip to LA, then I definitely have to keep in the back of my mind that I'm going to have to start all over again, because nobody gives a shit about me here or what I've done or where I've come from.
Right.
So, in Rochester, I was a really big fish in a small pond. And here I'm nobody. And I knew that coming in. So I was like, I just have to, apply what I did back home. And it might take a while, but I was like, I'm not, if it's something I really wanted to do and give it a shot. But I think what helped the most, Jamie, is just the amount of support that I had from colleagues, friends, family. So it made it easier to leave.
Did you go out there with hopes to just get into like a bigger market radio? Like, I know LA and New York are kind of the bigger markets for that. Was that your goal? I mean, obviously you've transitioned into kind of acting too, but what was your goal when you went out there?
My goal was never to continue into radio when I came to LA. My main focus was to act, write, and produce. That was my main goal. And I left my radio career behind. And I sacrificed that strictly to come out here and focus on learning the craft and seeing, how far I can take it. And so that's always been the main goal. And I knew, as a kid too, 6, 7, 8 years old, I knew that I wanted to do something in entertainment. I didn't have a clear vision then of what it may be or why. But I always knew that there was going to be something leaning me in towards the direction that I was supposed to ultimately be in. And I think, where I'm at right now is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And for me, I'm satisfied I'm never content, but I am satisfied with where I'm at and where I'm going, if that makes sense.
No, it completely does. I look at the career that I'm doing right now, and I have no idea how I ended up where I ended up. But I completely understand the feeling of, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is where I'm supposed to be. Um, and no, I completely understand that. And what kind of steps did you take when you got there? Because obviously you left Rochester, you left a good job at 98PXY doing the host thing on the radio. Essentially, it sounds like you dropped your radio gig, said wanted to go out to LA. You're gonna produce, you're gonna act, you're gonna do all that stuff. Like, did you have any contacts? Did you just kind of go there and just start
Um,
knocking on doors? Like, what happened?
it's a great question. I'd say I winged it. I didn't really know too many people at all. I had some friends that I graduated with in the theater program at MCC. And when I graduated MCC, I went back and took a theater class. And that's where I did my first stage play of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I met a couple of really great people. I played Augustus Gloop, which,
You
people
don't.
look
That
at
doesn't
me
really suit you. Yeah.
at all. But there's actually someone sent me a year ago. They sent me a clip. It's on YouTube of that play. Somebody taped it. It was Sandy. It was Sandy
Okay.
Waters
Yeah. Yeah.
from PXY. She was there and she got it on video. It's on YouTube today. And it's so funny to look back on that. But to answer your question, though, I didn't really have a game plan. So when I got out here, I hooked up with a couple of my buddies that I knew from MCC, and they kind of gave me some direction of where to go. And the first thing they told me to do was go over to Central Casting, where I signed up for background work. So for the first 6 to 7 months, I was an extra. Um, and for me, it was just to get my feet wet, to just kind of have an idea of how the business and works, but mostly
Yeah.
what it's like to be on set every day.
Sure.
And so I was doing a TV show called Two Broke Girls on CBS, which was shot at Warner Brothers. And so I had the opportunity to go there a lot and just be in front of a live studio audience and be on set and hear the directors and the terminology of the martini shot. And we're shooting this in a 35. And I need a light on this, and I need an apple box. And I'm just soaking it all in. And I was doing that a lot, and that was like my main thing. And then my buddy Johnny, who I met, as soon as I got to LA, he was gracious enough to open up his place. He had a fiance. They let me stay there for 4 months for free.
That's awesome.
And I was like, this is really great, but I'm the type of guy, I don't want to, overstay my welcome. And I left and got an apartment. And it just so happened the guy was renting out a room in a house, and he happened to be from Rochester, New York.
Wow.
And I found him on Craigslist. Weird situation. Anyways, I left there in 10 months and then moved to Hollywood, where I currently reside. But when I first came out, I was just doing whatever I can to keep my head above water. I didn't have a game plan. But the first 6 months was probably the hardest 6 months of my life, because it's this constant fear of, what did I do? What did I do? Was this the right decision? I left behind a career that was super promising. I left behind my girlfriend at the airport that I said goodbye to.
Wow.
My friends, my family. So there was a ton of sacrifices that came with that ultimate decision for me to move out here. But the one thing that I told myself on the plane when I was heading here was just, no matter how bad it gets or how hard it may get, I'm never going to just give up. I just have to push through the most difficult times, no matter how challenging no matter how challenging those times get, because ultimately it's really how you push through. It's really how people develop a career out here. It's never given to them. It's never handed to them. I mean, this is the type of career, being in entertainment, I'd say it's probably one of the most challenging. And it's the most challenging because it pushes people to their limits on what they're willing to put up with.
Sure.
Because, we're humans. It's in our DNA to want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
I get it. Nobody wants to know people want to know when their next paycheck is. They want to know that they're going to have a roof over their head. They want to know when they're going to eat next. I didn't know any of those things for years. And I think it's that stubbornness where the universe likes that, where ultimately it gives in.
Well,
You
it's
know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, it's you really did the ultimate, cliche bet on yourself. It sounds like you were going to go all in. I was one of my questions I was going to ask you as you were talking about that. One of the thoughts that came in my head was like, did you give yourself a time frame? Like, all right, success is going to happen to me in this period of time, and if it doesn't, I just got to kind of change course. And it
No,
sounds like that was never even a thought in your mind. Like you told yourself the second you get on that plane that I'm making this work one way or another.
no, it's people ask me all the time, like, how long you give yourself? There's no time limit. I will do it until I die. That was always my response. And it was dramatic. Don't get me wrong, but um, that's the kind of passion that I had. That's the kind of fire that I had to come up with a response like that, is because you don't know how long it's going to take. You're not doing it based off of beating the clock. You're just doing it because it's in your DNA. This is who I am as a person. It's what fulfills me. It's what makes me happy. This is what I like to do. So I'm just going to continue to do it. And the longer I can continue to do it and become better at it, the quicker it is, it's going to pay off for me. You know what I mean?
Right.
My goal was never to be famous and rich. My goal was to just find something I truly am passionate about and love and try and make my living doing that.
I mean, there's so many people, and again, I go back to this, what I just said, bet on yourself to do it. There's so many people that are completely unwilling to do that. Like, it again sparked a two-part question actually for me. So two things. One, when you initially went out there, did you have specific goals in mind of what you wanted to do? And then the second part of that question is, what does success actually look like for you in Hollywood? Like, if how everybody's got that one thing, it's just you've made it when. Like, what does that look like for you?
Um, somebody asked me that once, and the only thing I can come up with is I already believe that I am successful because I have done a number of projects, and I've I've been able to accomplish things that um, were difficult, and so for me, I think it's really just success is different for everybody. What I envision success as for me is somebody might look at that and be like, well, that's not really successful until you're in a blockbuster movie or you've been nominated for an Academy. I've had so many obstacles that I've had to overcome in these last 11 years that in my mind, I've already done it. And so for me, when I first came out here, I was like, okay, the one goal I have is to meet as many different people as possible, train, take as many classes out as I can. I mean, I was just throwing darts at the dartboard and seeing what stuck. Um, but I'd like to say I'm happy with where I'm at in my 11-year career here. It's taken a while, but I've finally got to a point where I have a good team. I finally got a great agent. I got a great talent manager. I got a great mentor and acting coach that's taken me under his wing. I have great classmates. I wrote, produced, and starred in an award-winning short film that was all over the world last year, and I was able to write that, produce it, star in it, and shoot it in the middle of a pandemic where the entertainment industry was literally shut down at the time. And so when I got together a team and said, "Hey, I really want to do this," and they said, "You're nuts. We're in the pandemic." I said, I really feel like we can do it. And I got the entire team together. I wrote the script for 4 months. I got my director, and we busted it out in 11 hours in
Wow.
one day on a Saturday. And it's the most successful thing I've ever done or been a part of. And so when you ask me, what success looks like for me, that was it.
That was one of the things I was going to ask you about too. Like I saw that all over the place, and it looked like you kind of poured your heart and soul into that, and it came out great. And does that drive you to kind of want to do more of that?
Absolutely. I wrote Hot End Conversation based off of personal life experience, and art imitates life.
Yeah.
And so, I took everything that I was going through and feeling, and I decided to write that down, and it evolved into a beautiful story, which turned into a beautiful short film. And I brought it to Rochester, New York, and that was always a dream of mine, was to create a film and have it be played at the Rochester International Film Festival. And it was that's exactly what took place this past August. And I came home for that, and it won Best Short, and that just made me so hungry to keep creating and keep writing. And that's what I've been doing. I've fallen in love with the writing process, not just the acting process, but just being able to write. And it's really, I'll tell you, Jamie, there's something really special about writing something out on paper, and then from that little tiny step, seeing it come to life and play in movie theaters all over the country. That was really just fulfilling for me, and it makes you want to do more and more of that.
I think a couple things is one, man, your passion just comes right through the microphone, through the screen. Like I can tell you truly love what you do and you're really, really happy about it. And it's something that, again, the passion you're just exuding right now is just absolutely incredible. And I don't even know how to kind of follow that up with, other than, it's inspiring to see that, some people can kind of get caught up in the grind of the creation process, and, the final output is great, but it sounds like you're not only in love with the final process, is you're enjoying the journey of getting to there too, which is something that I find is kind of unique.
It's not something I've always had in the back of my mind. It's taken people and my acting coach to really be like, it is a part of the journey, because once you get to where it is you're going, you're like, oh, well, I made it. Now what's next? But I've really appreciated all the struggles that I've went through, and everything that I thought was there to work against me was actually for me, because I've taken all of those experiences, whether they were good or bad, and I've put it into the art. And so the journey is the most important part. And I love the journey that I've been on and the chances that I've taken. And I think there's so many people out here that I've met that don't appreciate it just yet. You have to appreciate the journey, because that's ultimately what it's about. Because I've met people. I got to sit down with Bradley Cooper once, and I asked him what was the best part. We were in a workout class, and we were leaving, and I had to ask him. We're in West Hollywood, and I said, "What was been the best part of your entire career?" And he said, "It's been the journey." He goes, "All those times that you so badly just want to make it and make it and make it, you have to remember, when you get to where it is that you've been trying to go for all these years, you miss some of the hardships. You miss the simple life on what it is that got you there in the first place." And people forget that, and so for me, I'm at a point where I'm just enjoying all of it day in and day out, because I feel truly blessed, man. I really do, to just wake up and be able to do what it is that I want to do and what I feel like is my actual purpose. I want to move people. I want to inspire people. And I feel like that's what I'm doing.
You use the word inspired, and I think that's completely accurate. You talk about the journey and how that's the fulfilling part. And I think that can be great advice for anybody doing anything. Like, I think about that with my kids and my wife. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how many days do we just take for granted that, it's just like, another day, we're going to work, we're going to get the kids on the bus, we're going to feed them dinner, we're going to put them to bed, and we're going to sit on our phones for a half hour, and then we're going to go to sleep. And, I've been trying to personally a lot more lately, just sit back and really kind of enjoy the moment. I feel like I'm always looking through the screen of my phone, taking the pictures. And it's like, those are all great. Those are great memories, but trying to be more in the moment. And it sounds like you're constantly in the moment, and enjoying the hell out of it, which is absolutely amazing. So you've taken this
Well,
trip.
not to mention we're 38. I mean, do you remember when we're 18? Do you remember? Like, look how quick that's gone by. And I've had to remember, like, hey, it did feel like we were just in high school, and that was 20 years ago. And now
I had to say it.
I'm just saying, man, like, do you ever look back though? Like I do. Do you ever, when we were in high school, did you ever feel like, I can't wait to graduate. I can't wait to hit my 20s. I can't wait to get a full-time job.
Yep.
And now that you've done all those things, now you're a married man with 2 girls. I mean, do you come across times right now where you look back and you're like, I wish I was still in high school playing football and having a good time, or do you admire like where you're at right now in life? I mean,
I admire where I'm at. I think the big thing for me is, you try to go through life having no regrets. And I think as I've gotten older and gotten more outgoing, like, for instance, this podcast, right? This is my third podcast that I'm doing. I did it because, like you, I always had a fascination with, entertainment radio. I was always a huge, like, Opie and Anthony fan back in the day. And
yeah.
listen to you on PXY and all that. And it was one of those things that's like, you know what, I don't know if I can make a career out of it, but I've always wanted to do it. And that's the kind of passion. And the reason why I say that is not to be like, hey, look at me doing a podcast. It's more of, I wish I had put this much energy into socializing and being, in the moment with other people at the time. Like I can honestly say I'm not entirely close with a lot of people we went to high school with, for instance. And I kind of regret that to a degree, like catching up with you, man, we haven't probably talked in years. And we're picking up like nothing changed. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
It's really, really cool to be able to have that kind of bond and be able to talk through this kind of thing. And I wish I'd have put more effort into it back then, if that makes any sense. So I look fondly on those times, but at the same time, I'm sitting there going, man, there's some things I could have done differently. And I could be in, from a relationship standpoint with just friendships and stuff, like I wish that I could have changed some of that stuff,
but you got to realize though, just how lucky you are to figure that out now instead of when you're 78.
Yeah,
we're still young as fuck,
right?
And regardless of what anyone says, and it isn't too late. But the fact that you're figuring that out right now and you're doing something about it speaks volumes, because you could talk about it all day long. You're either going to get up off your ass and do something about it, or you're going to be in the same place you were yesterday. So you started a podcast. I'm super excited we connected, even though it's been years. I'm excited that, and having a podcast, it's an outlet, it's really great. I do my podcast with iHeartRadio for two reasons, because I love radio. It's always going to be in my blood.
Yep.
And it allows me to catch up with my two friends that I did radio for 15 years with. And so it's something that we have guests on, and it's just an outlet, because everybody at the end of the day has some sort of creativity about them that they're not using.
Yeah.
And
I found it therapeutic, to be honest with you. Like,
exactly.
Not from just a going through like a therapy session like you think of. It's just the creative outlet is something I'd love to do, because it's something that I've always had and never really honed in on what is going to be that outlet for that. When I said, you know what, let me get this. I mean, let's be honest. I picked something stupid originally. I had a podcast called Missing the Mark Wrestling Podcast, talking about pro wrestling, because I'm still a kid at heart and I love pro wrestling, which is now morphed into Missing the Mark Radio, which is a bunch of guy humor, snacks, just a lot, just again, hanging out with your friends, doing different things.
Right.
And then I had that creative itch going, man, when we've done interviews, I really, really feel like that's where I excel. And I love the one-on-one, like the intimacy of being able to get to know somebody or learn more about them, which is why I kind of started this. And it sparked that creativeness and the curiosity of learning more and doing it. And it's such an outlet and so therapeutic. I completely understand where you're coming from and why that passion drives you.
Well, that's why before we logged on, I cracked an IPA. It was
Nice.
just a couple of old buddies hanging out.
Yeah.
I figure you were going to have a beer. And I was like, this is a perfect opportunity to catch up.
Yeah.
And you got to find your niche, and I think the more you do a couple of these and you have guests, it's going to morph into something on its own, and it'll start, it will develop its own legs and you'll be able to run with it. But I think people like myself, I'm the very creative type. And when I'm not being creative, I become stagnant, and then I go into a funk. Yep. And then it's just all downhill from there. And so I totally get it. I think it's important for a lot of people to, do the day-to-day grind, but also leave some time for yourself to do what it is that you love, and give yourself a chance to be creative. It's amazing what it can do for people. It really is. Aside from just making you super happy. So is your wife love that you're doing this?
She understands the need to get the creativeness out of me, I guess, a little bit. And she refuses to be on the air. I've been podcasting since December of 2016. She refuses to actually be on the air ever. But no, she gets she's supportive of it. She gets the creativeness that I need to kind of get out of it. Why I do it. It's something fun. It's a hobby. But it's
That's
all.
why she makes you do it in the basement.
Uh, I mean, this is where we normally do the podcast. However, I was like, I'm going to use my fancy work equipment that I have here and use my good camera and everything. And then my kids had to go to sleep. So, I do have a couple of other questions. One of which
Sure.
is kind of funny. One is more serious. We'll start with the serious one first. We talked about earlier. You gave yourself, you bet on yourself, and you kind of just jumped ship, went to Hollywood, and started, that life. What advice would you give for anybody that's kind of considering that? It's a big leap of faith. I mean, I think about things like that all the time. Like, what if I had tried to get into radio or something like that a lot early on? And once you've established yourself in a life where you've got bills to pay and kids and family, or just anything, like you said, you left family, a great job, a girlfriend. It was a leap of faith.
It was. I think I was in a different, unique situation compared to other people because I was in a position where I recognized I didn't have a mortgage, I didn't have a wife, I didn't have kids, I didn't have a family. So now would be a perfect opportunity for me to do this. And if I'm not going to do it, I'm going to regret it forever. And I knew that. I knew that deep down. I didn't want to leave my radio career. I didn't want to leave my girlfriend at the time, but I knew these were sacrifices I had to make in order to do the things that I wanted to do. Anybody that wants to come out here, because I used to be the guy asking for advice, I think that you need to just recognize the fact that it is going to be hard. There is going to be situations and there's going to be experiences that you have to deal with where you feel like nothing is going right. And it's really up to the individual to decide on whether or not they want to push through that or not, because it does get difficult, especially people who are very family oriented like myself. Family means a lot to me, and I get to see my family twice a year. But finding ways to make money and keep your head above water, because it's not a cheap place to live,
Yeah.
Finding ways to just make money and find a roommate if you need to, but find the time to work on your craft. Jamie, there are so many people that come out here and they're like, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it and I'll be good at it. And it's crazy to me because they're not good at it. And it's insulting sometimes because of the amount of work that I've seen myself and my peers put into this craft, and people show up and they just want it handed to them.
Yeah.
It is insulting because it's not easy. And we're in this business for a reason, whether it's to evoke emotion or just to be creative, whatever your reasoning is, you put a lot of work into getting where it is that you are. And I got a lot of friends right now that are doing so great and they're so successful, but they've been at it for 15, 16, 17 years and they're just blowing up. And I've been at it for 11 and I feel like I'm just getting my foot in the door. So that being said, I think it's just important to really know who you are as a person before you come out here, and to find a job, find a group of friends, surround yourself with good people, and hang on to those people, especially if they have the same core values that you do, and just find ways to work on your craft and always make videos and write. It's you got to do it. You can't call yourself a writer if you write a couple times a month. You got to be doing it every day.
Yeah. That's man, that was deep. And dude,
I wasn't trying to be. I was just
no,
like,
you're fine, man. Like, this is what I wanted. This is what I wanted out of this new venture podcast. Like I said this before. I'll say it again. Your passion just exudes out of you, and to see the level of happiness that you're having and success that you're having is absolutely incredible. And
thank you.
Do you ever just IMDb yourself? Just because you can and it's there? Because I did.
Well, oh, you did?
Of course, I did a little bit of research. For example,
I IMDb'd myself a month ago because I'm waiting on a new credit to show up from the producers over at the Oxygen Network, because I shot 2 episodes of a true crime story.
That's
And
awesome.
I played the. It's really funny how this worked out because my agent called and they said they want to use you, but they don't need you to audition. And I said, why is that? They're like, well, you're playing this guy Chris, who hired a hitman to kill his parents in Florida in the early 2000s, and it was on Dateline NBC, the whole story. And they think you look just like him, but they want to shave your face and keep a goatee. And I'm like, I looked at the guy's photo online when I Googled him.
Yeah.
This guy was probably 80 pounds heavier than me. So I called my agent Paula back and I said, they want me to play this guy, Chris. They're like, yeah, they just only for 2 episodes. Just go show up on set. It'll be fun. So I shot it. It's going to be on the Oxygen Network.
That's awesome.
And I'm waiting for them to put the credit up because, it looks better the more you have, obviously.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But they haven't done it yet. I don't know what the holdup is, but that to answer your question, that's why I went on there to look.
That's amazing. Well, what are you working on right now? Is there anything you talked about your podcast? What's the name of the podcast for everybody?
It's called the Rip It Up Podcast. And
Okay.
it's with my good friend Raph, who used to do nights at 98PXY,
Remember
and our
that?
very close friend Megan Carter, who used to do afternoons at 98PXY. And now we're kind of all over the place. Raph is out here in LA with me, working at iHeart out here,
Okay.
doing afternoons. And then Megan is now in Buffalo doing a country show out there. So the three of us, we get together. I go to the iHeart studios out here, and we do a podcast every Wednesday night called Rip It Up. And it's just 3 old radio friends shooting the shit, kind of like you and I are doing. So it's a good concept because the show's doing well. But so for you, I would continue to do it for sure.
I'm planning to. I'm gonna keep Missing the Mark Radio as my kind of just fun goofing off with my friends podcast, and this one a little more serious, a little more creative, a little more fun. But no, I'm having a good time. You are recording number 2, by the way, so I appreciate you kind of doing this. But no, this was awesome catching up. Honestly, I would love to kind of stay in touch and continue talking. Hopefully we can get together and see each other some point when you're in town.
Yeah, man.
Up out there, but
I'll be in Rochester in August, so I would love to. Let's link up for sure. I'd love to see you. The last time I was home, I came home in December for Christmas, and I went to the what's that shithole bar in Greece? The Retreat.
Oh God,
do you know that was my first time there?
Really?
I had drinks with Sandy Waters and my old boss, Mike Danger, her husband. And I met them at the Retreat in Greece. And all the years of my life, I lived in Greece, all 27 of them. I've never been to the Retreat. And I know why. Yeah, no, it's fine. You shouldn't go back. There are plenty of better, newer bars in the area. Honestly, as a married guy for almost 14 years and a father of 2. I don't hit bars. Has it been 14 years? Yeah, man. I got married in 2008. So how did you meet your wife, by the way? Did she go to Greece schools? She did not. She's actually from up near the Watertown area. So stupid thing. I went to MCC for 2 years as well. I then transferred to Brockport State. And my roommates, it was me and 3 other guys. And one of my roommates, he went to Olympia, actually. He knew a girl in another suite, and there was 6 of them. We just started kind of hanging out all together. They all started hooking up one at a time. My wife and I both had significant others at the time, and both were kind of getting rocky, but we were stuck hanging out with each other because everybody else was hanging out, right? So sure. Long story short, Valentine's Day, I kept asking her out. She's like, no, I technically have a boyfriend, and then he just decided not to call her and not to show up and come visit her. And she's like, you know what? Hey. She's like, yeah, that was your in. That was my in. The weird thing is all 4 of us in the suite married 4 out of the 6 of the other suite, and we're all still very good friends today. Wow, we hang out. My wife and I are the last ones together. First one's married, so it's a weird story. My dad's like, oh, you should tell the college. It's a great story. I'm like, nah, it's kind of weird, but tell the college. Yeah, like they're gonna write some big article about it, So. But yeah, no, that's how it was. And 14 years later here, we're married, and it's living the suburban Greece, New York dream is what we're doing. Yeah, well, I do envy that sometimes, man. As much as I love living in Hollywood and being in the heart of it, there's times where I come home and a part of me wants that life where I got the family, and it's more simple, if you will.
Yeah.
You know,
Again, on the flip side of that, I'm jealous of some of the stuff that you're doing. I'm envious of the radio career, the Hollywood. It sounds like you're just living the best life out there too. So I get it. Best of both worlds. You can't necessarily have all the time, but
yeah.
it sounds like you're doing great, man. And like I said, I truly appreciate you doing this. I really do want to stay in touch. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And this has been a lot of fun. I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, no, of course, man. Thank you so much for reaching out and having me jump on. It was so cool to hear from you. I think it was a Facebook message you sent me, and I was like,
it was
Jamie.
Yeah.
I was like, Jamie. I was like, oh my, holy shit. It's been like, yeah, I know Jamie 20 years later. I'm like, oh man, but it was so nostalgic. And so I really appreciate you reaching out, man. And thank you so much for having me on the show.
I want to thank my guest this week, Phillip Musumeci, for joining me. I truly enjoyed the conversation. It was great catching up with an old friend, and he really is somebody who followed his passion and followed his dreams and really bet on himself, moving across the country to try something new, and he's really having a lot of success out there in Hollywood. I couldn't be any happier than I am for my good friend there. If you haven't already, be sure to check out his film, How to End a Conversation. You can find that on the Amuleto YouTube channel. And, leave some great comments, great reviews. Tell a friend. I think all the positive feedback you can give is really going to help things out with kind of pushing that film along, too. And it's a great film. I encourage all of you to check it out. You can follow him on Instagram at HiMoose, HIMOOSE, and be sure to let him know that you found him and enjoyed his podcast with me this week. That'd be really good, helpful for me too. So you can also check him up on the Rip It Up podcast. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts as well. So again, I want to end this podcast the same way I've kind of ended all the previous ones. Thank you so much for all the support. You can follow me on Instagram at YouFascinateMePod. You Fascinate Me with Jamie Engel on Facebook, and you can email me, youfascinatemepod@gmail.com. Feel free to give me some feedback, some comments. I love to hear all of it. If you're interested in advertising with the show, please send us an email as well. But again, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Leave those 5-star reviews. They certainly help and go a long, long way with growing the show here. So again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for listening. I can't wait to share more of these interviews with you, and I'll see you again next week.